welcome back to the Promoted Podcast. I'm your host, Felicity Fury, CEO and co-founder of We Aspire, and I'm joined by the incredible Renee Wooten, engineer, aerospace engineer no less, speaker, commercial pilot. Awesome to have you back on the show, Renee.
Great to be back. It's a blessing to live in Australia, to be back from an incredible trip to the US. I just came back from 3 months overseas, learned a lot, and very excited to now get back into my work and apply all of my learnings. What about you, Felicity? What's been happening in your world?
Oh, it's been a big week and I've been so pumped to be working with so many incredible leaders. We just wrapped on the immersive experience part of one of our amazing programs. So it's so great to see how much change we get in leaders over 4 months. So I'm ready to go for this Friday that we are recording and looking forward to the weekend. And I'm keen to dive into this topic with you today, Renee, because I feel like the work you do is cutting edge. You are leading the industry in so many ways, and your industry, particularly aviation, I feel like a lot of engineering industries are dealing with so much complexity and so much change. So today I would love to dive in with you around how do you adapt in this rapidly changing workforce? How do you prioritize? And I feel like these are some buzzwords around adaptability, future work, change, but the reality is it's happening every single day. So how do you deal with it?
I think absolutely to your point, I absolutely work in a rapidly changing workforce, and adaptability is really essential for me to stay productive and really focused and make sure that I'm prioritizing the right things. My work, my projects, my team members, every day is a different day. And I think that's why I love what I do. I love the challenge of navigating the ambiguity and the change and what's been happening, but it is kind of exhausting at the same time, and also hard to keep on top of. In the time that I was away in the US, I came back to an email and a lot of information to digest. And so maybe I even will speak through this. For me, I start my day, Felicity, by writing down how I'm going to spend each hour throughout my day. And that's at a very high level. So it might be things like I want to get a walk in. I want to, have a break for lunch. I want to call this person, and I need to get my work done. Then when I think about my work, I then start thinking through, okay, what are the organizational goals? So, for instance, I've got 500 emails sitting in my account right now. How do I think through which emails I should even read in the first place? And what are the key drivers in leadership saying around our priorities as an organization? So that's really important for me to then understand my guiding light, my golden star. Where are we working towards? What are we working towards? And what's my timeline around that? What do I need to make sure I've covered off by the end of this year? What do I need to make sure that I've got in place by the start of next year? So those are the initial thoughts that I have. And then I connect with my manager and understand what's on, their priority list. What do they see me contributing to in order to meet their priorities as well? And that's probably, the scene setter is the organizational goals and my manager's priorities. How do I then think about how I need to contribute to those and make sure that I am on track and actually really focused and diverting my energy in the right places. From there, I do have numerous priorities. So I need to think about what's the project impact, and it just happen day to day. Whilst it's good to do those longer term planning pieces and then think about the short term actions that you need to take, things still change day to day. And so this is where this adaptability comes in. It'd be a perfect world if I could just step to the side and say, great, I've got my priorities. I know who I'm working with, and now I'm just going to go and do those things, because that's not the world I live in, unfortunately. So day to day, you get emails, you get different priorities, you get team members that need help. So you're constantly juggling how to actually break down your priorities day to day. A great example is next week I've got to fly to Singapore, and I've got to present the week after that in Brisbane to one of our partners. So I've got to prepare, my presentations and who I'm connecting with when I go to this conference. And then I've also got to contribute to the tasks tasks at hand. So literally every day is re-establishing my key priorities. What do I need to get done by the end of today in order to feel productive and to make sure that I've put the fires out, the biggest fires out, as they say. And sometimes, you run out of time or things don't go to plan. And that's, again, where this minds your ability to adapt to changing situations is going to be really important. Felicity, I know that you have juggled so much in your career. I know that you're a big advocate for a positive mindset and needing to adapt, sometimes being forced to adapt, certainly with a family with 2 young kids. Talk to us about it. How do you manage this?
Yes, well, you're right. Especially the kids thing. I had not thought about that until you mentioned it. I think it was 2 Mondays ago. There was a vomiting bug in the house. I managed to avoid it, but my husband and both the kids got it, and they were out for a couple of days. So I just was the one that got covered in vomit, but it meant that, all my Monday meetings moved. And, I had one with one of my amazing new coaches who's an incredible entrepreneur. I went, oh my gosh, I've got to change this meeting with her. And she was fine about it. So yeah, having young kids, you have to adapt to whatever situation that you're dealing with, and you don't really get a choice in that sometimes. So they've definitely helped me be adaptable. And I think for me, it's that having that regular meeting rhythm and that structure really helps prioritize. So as well as the daily, and I've literally got it on my post-it right in front of me, the top 3 things I'm doing today, and really refocusing each day, I think is really, really powerful. But I think also having those weekly meetings, you've got it too.
Sorry, I was just going to say, for those online, it was my breakdown of the hours level.
Oh, so good. You've got it right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't do that.
I think what's great about that strategy of, your breakdown hour by hour, or however you do it, if you've got your top 3 priorities, it helps you think about, how am I going to run my day? I feel it's so easy to get caught up in emails and checking emails. And I have such a bad habit for being like, oh, wait, like, have I gone to the email and reacting to that? And recently I've been practicing, checking emails at set periods of time, or being okay with, I'm not going to check my email today because I'm in a training course and I'm going to be really focused and have my attention and intention there for that day of the training program, whether I'm delivering it or I'm participating in training, so I can be really present and focused. And I'm fortunate that, I don't have a job on a construction site where they're doing a concrete pour and someone actually urgently needs to reach out to me, and I'm not a heart surgeon, so it's not like anyone's going to die if I don't, check my emails or respond to things. So I think having that structured time and you owning your diary is really, really powerful. And I like what you said too, Renee, around the teams and speaking with your manager or your boss. Certainly running a business, you really, you're making educated guesses. You've got a plan. A lot of things are experimenting and testing, particularly when you're starting a business from scratch. And we're only 4 years into this We Aspire journey. So we're still in the really early days of creating what we're doing. So there's a lot of uncertainty, ambiguity, and you do have to be really, really adaptable when you're, leading a business and when you're starting a business. So I think having, for me personally, a bit of a regular rhythm, and that looks like, an annual strategy session, the quarterly meetings, monthly meetings, and then, weekly, and then, daily priorities personally. Having that structure and rhythm can be really powerful. So they're kind of like your adaptability points, almost like, okay, what do we need to adapt on this week? And I'm discovering stuff about myself too around what I enjoy, what are my strengths. And as the business is growing, even just a couple of weeks ago, we flipped a whole bunch of stuff around in our roles to go, I'm going to focus on this and prioritize this. Mark was going to go focus on a bunch of other things. So I think being okay to be wrong, being okay to change, being okay to, one thing I'm really one thing I'm finding challenging is being okay to change my role and say, I'm not good at everything. I'm going to just stick to my lane and stick to this kind of pocket of work to do. So yeah, that's really helped me adapt, because I think it can be so easy to, what is it? Someone said the other day, it's like chasing rabbits. I don't know if you ever heard that. Like, you're just like, oh, a rabbit, like just, chasing all these different things around.
It certainly feels like I agree. Yeah, that's actually the perfect analogy because, yeah, there's so many moments, the amount of information coming at me. And, I've chased so many rabbits that I'm exhausted. So sometimes I just want to focus on one rabbit and watch where it runs. But to that point, so structure is really key. Making sure you're talking to your stakeholders is also essential. So Felicity's kind of, provided some great key pointers there. I'm going to add another one to the list, which is setting boundaries and knowing when to say no. I think that it's really easy to take on everything, and that's where that rabbit analogy actually really applies so well and fittingly. But when you're chasing all the rabbits, it leads to burnout, and it just decreases your effectiveness and your productivity. So again, coming back to that list and, assessing against your current priorities and knowing that absolutely these are the things I need to be working on. I need to let that rabbit run. I'm not going to be distracted, and just keep coming back to, that list and structure that you've already built. Communication, super important. We've already touched on that, but constantly coming back and making sure that your priorities do align with your manager. Maybe it's a weekly catch up where you say, this is what I've achieved, this is what you mentioned, and this is what I'm going to do for the week ahead, and just make sure that that is correct, it's aligned. And where there is ambiguity or you're not sure, make sure you have that conversation too, and just make sure that your manager endorses, what you're prioritizing and what you're leaving behind if you aren't sure.
I think what you said about the boundaries is really powerful. And I think it can take time sometimes to train your environment. So you might be new to a role. Yeah. People don't know how you work, or you could be going from being in the team to leading the team. So it's a different dynamic. It's different boundaries, different priorities, different ways of structuring things. So you might be listening to this going, oh, I do need to set a boundary here, or I do need to have more structure, or I do need to, what would work for me is to not check emails in the mornings. So it might be that then there's a communication to your team and to the environment or your stakeholders. I'm not checking emails in the morning. First, opportunity I'll respond to is after my lunch break at 1 p.m. And, I get that doesn't work for everybody in terms of whatever business and structure that you have, but it can take some time to train people in those boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. Great call out. And I think to that point as well, I use technology to support track and adjust my priorities as well. So a great example might be that you structure your Microsoft Planner. It's a great tool that I use to kind of track all of my tasks every day. Every to-do list, so that I forget nothing, goes into my task planner. And I then at the start of my day sit down and drag the 3 priorities for the week. And I can only have one task in each of those 3 priorities on how I'm spending my time. So when those rabbits do come, I can say, nope, I'm watching my rabbit.
We might need to call this episode "Chasing Rabbits." You've really hooked on.
Absolutely, I think that's a great analogy.
Yeah, you're very disciplined. I love it. I have my 6-week planner, which is I actually used to have a really detailed spreadsheet, and I being a trained professional project manager, I've got like all the spreadsheets and all the tools. But actually, one thing I'm finding is really working is Michael's really visual, my business partner, and he has a 1-page 6-week look ahead. And so he's got like a couple of 6 weeks. So I found it really helpful if I have more like a chunkier task, I'll put that on my planner of going, okay, it's not a priority this week, but I kind of got to get to it. And then if it's like a little small action, just having my phone and my little to-do list in my phone, and I'll just pop a small one there if it's, not urgent. So I find I'm a bit of a procrastinator when it comes to prioritizing and planning my day, and I can kind of structure all those things out. And I do find it hard to stick to just a couple of priorities for the day. I'm always very ambitious with how much I want to get done in a day. So I think, having that, the small task, big task has been working for me. And I'm finding a lot more of my work is kind of bigger chunks and bigger projects to plan. So having a visual display of here are the next 6 weeks has really helped me. So I don't like to admit that as the professional project manager in the family, but I've been trying out Michael's visual approach, and it's working really, really well.
That's incredible. So to wrap up, how do you adapt in a rapidly changing workforce? We've talked through having structure, setting really great boundaries, talking to your stakeholders, leveraging technology or visualization tools to make sure that you're keeping track of your white rabbit, and then finally aligning with the organizational goals and your manager's priorities will be really helpful in helping you adapt to constantly changing information and priorities as an organization and as an individual. Felicity, any final thoughts?
Oh, I just love your learnings. I love being able to learn from a pro, Renee. So I'm going to steal a lot of those strategies for later. And I feel like we can have each other accountable for chasing the rabbits. Thanks for another great episode.
Love it. Thank you.